Make a motion that we approve the Board of Selectmen meeting minutes from October 6th, 2020.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on these minutes?
I just, at the top of the page where it says that the
You weren't
meeting,
talking to your mic.
at the top of the page where it says the meeting was held at the town hall, can we change that to the auditorium, the school auditorium?
Yep. Dottie, if you have that, we will change that one item once we vote on it. Are there any other items in the minutes?
I don't think so.
Good.
Okay, and Dottie is good with it. Hearing no other changes, all in favor of approving the Board of Selectmen meeting minutes from October 6th, 2020 with that change, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No one? That motion passes. I'll make a motion that we approve the Board of Selectmen special meeting minutes from October 14th, 2020.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion on those minutes?
I know what the minutes were, but I didn't get a copy of them.
I didn't either,
Copy of those?
actually.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
they didn't come out.
They didn't come out in the
No.
packet? Do you want to take a minute? Do you want to take a minute and look? They were really short.
Do you have
Yeah, I
them?
mean, it was just that,
And they were right there, weren't they?
it was the approval for the
Yeah,
funding
it was
for.
a very short meeting. Can Amy, you read them?
I read through them all. They were accurate. but
Okay,
I
then
thought they were
I'm
in that
fine with
packet.
voting on it based on, we can always go back.
Just that
and-
we didn't get a copy of it, that's all.
There was so much.
Ah,
But it was just the approval on that to go to the Board of Finance.
For the
for the
animal control.
Correct.
yeah.
Do
Ken, did you want to
wanna
see
look
them?
at them? They're really short. I just would feel more comfortable if we were voting on it. It'll take no time. It was at the back of everything.
Yep.
I'm good.
You good? Want to put that back? All right, so all in favor of approving the Board of Selectmen special meeting minutes from October 14th, 2020, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And that motion passes. We had two pieces of correspondence, one from TVCCA in gratitude for the funds that the town provided for TVCCA. And then, of course, the police services report. Is there any other correspondence from either of the selectmen?
Nothing.
Nope,
Okay.
nothing.
All right. So we'll move on to agenda item 3, selectmen comments. Any selectmen comments?
I do not have any tonight. We have a pretty healthy agenda, so I'm going to hold any comments.
My sentiments, exactly.
The only thing, I only got two quick things. One was the Connecticut water for the 70 grand for doing Main Street.
Mhm.
It would have been nice if the board had known that we were approaching the Board of Finance, considering we had the meeting on Tuesday, just before that, or even the night before, where we did it, so that way, because it had questions of what was on the agenda, reading it. And I guess the ordinances themselves going out were delayed because even the Board of Finance didn't get them to the last minute.
They had actually gotten them weeks prior, but
Yeah.
I think they just got shuffled to the
Yeah,
side,
and-
so. And it's just up for discussion. It's not, and we haven't actually received the funding from Connecticut Water, so. But yes, I will be more communicative. Yes, would be the
No,
word.
I can see where redoing Main Street and not putting money into it, grinding it back out, it makes sense.
Right.
So,
Okay, and to reiterate Suzanne's sentiments, there is a lot on the agenda tonight, so and I think a lot of what's going on is being touched upon tonight. So the only comment that I have is that Halloween is coming up, and the fire departments, in conjunction with the Raceway, the Thompson Congregational Church, and area businesses are putting on a trunk or treat. And I know Jason and I have purchased costumes, so we will be there celebrating, handing out candy. And I hope lots of the community comes out for this special event. It's great that the fire departments have put this together, and it should be a fun night. So again, that's Halloween night at this raceway between 4 and 6 p.m. So
Okay.
come on out.
The only other thing that I have, I think our next meeting is November 4th,
Correct.
which is the day after election. If everybody's been watching the news, exercise your right to vote, get your absentee ballot, come down and vote, but do exercise your right to vote.
Yep.
Yes,
Because our meeting will be on the 4th, the
thank
day
you
after
for
the
bringing that up.
election.
Good.
Yeah. Okay, at this point, we'll open up the floor for citizens' comments. Agenda item 4, citizen comments. Are there any citizen comments? You can feel free to unmute yourself. You could type into the chat, etc. But the floor is open for any citizen comments. Going once, going twice. Okay, we'll move on to agenda item 5, the 2021 Board of Selectmen meeting schedule. Did you both receive?
Yes, I did.
Look over the dates. We did take into consideration next year's elections, so that is a Wednesday. Aside from that, we kind of stuck with all the first and third Tuesdays. And we did leave it open on the schedule for it to still be a virtual format, not knowing what COVID's going to bring next year.
Do you want a motion to approve it?
Sure.
I'll make the motion to approve the 2021 schedule for the Board of Selectmen meetings.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the calendar? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the meeting calendar for 2021, say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? That motion passes. Okay, agenda item 6. It came to our attention by chance that in hiring Paul Hopkins as our assessor, we were also supposed to appoint him as assessor, as a board. So with that, I make a motion that we hereby appoint Paul Hopkins to serve as assessor for the town of Thompson, term indefinite.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor of appointing Paul Hopkins as assessor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
It's official now.
And it's
Paul.
official.
Welcome aboard.
We'll sign these up.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, agenda item 7. There was a hiring committee put together. We interviewed several candidates for 2 positions at the highway department. One is going to fill the general maintainer position. The other will fill a role at the transfer station. At this point, I'd entertain a motion to accept the hiring committee's recommendation and hire 2 individuals for the position of highway maintainer. Anybody wants to make that motion?
I'm just looking for my paperwork.
So
There was
do
a-
we need
there
to
was a
ma-
lot of
do we need
papers.
to make, mention their names in that?
Yes, you should.
That's
You
what I
should.
thought. Yeah, so
That's why I was looking for the paperwork.
one was,
It's in here somewhere. I got it. Okay, I'll make a motion based on the hiring committee's recommendations that we hire Richard Gregory and Alan Rivers to the DPW department.
Okay, we have a motion.
and I can give you a second on that.
Okay, and Suzanne has the second. Any discussion?
Yes, I did review the 2 applicants. I did have discussion with the highway director as to concerns. Not going any further in that. He is well aware of my concerns and will do what we pay him to do and manage accordingly.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
I didn't have any concerns.
All in favor of following the hiring committee's recommendation and offering the positions to Alan Rivers and Richard Gregory, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. And that passes. Agenda item 8. We were approached by Elmer Preston, the commander of the VFW, requesting to distribute poppies at the transfer station November 11th through the 14th of this year. This is typically done at Memorial Day, but obviously COVID kind of put things off and they weren't allowed to do this. There have been other groups there. There's been a boot drive there. I think it's wonderful. I think it's during Veterans Day week. So I would make a motion that we grant permission to the Thompson Memorial VFW Post 10088 to distribute poppies November 11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th at the transfer station and other establishments around town.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, and that motion passes. All right, agenda item 9, school roof project. As we know, the project had gone out to referendum and was approved. The building committee has been working diligently to put together parameters to go out to RFP, and we have 5 bids to open this evening. What I'd like to do is open the bids, announce who submitted the bids. We are not going to say the amount of the bids because it's still in negotiation. And I know in the past we've been advised through FOIA that we don't have to actually announce the bid amounts, just who placed the bids.
Okay,
So I think we can all take a couple.
sure.
Yeah.
Do we need a motion to open them?
Do we need-
No, that's
No.
on
Okay.
the agenda to open.
Yep, nope, just checking.
Yeah, let's do 2. I'll just do 1.
No, you can do 2.
No, that's okay. So we'll just kind of open and announce them one by one. And if everybody wants to just announce who submitted the bids, we'll hand them off to the building committee afterwards.
Just randomly? I
Yeah,
can-
just name who you opened up.
Ty and Bond.
That was-
You have one there for time bond?
Say Ty and Bond.
Says that on the top right.
Who was the envelope from?
This says Silktown Roofing,
That's who it was.
but the top is Time, it doesn't say another name on it.
Is that just the RFP?
Maybe that's what they have. Bid recipient.
Okay. Okay, the one that I have here is the Imperial Company Restoration Contractor Inc. I'm not sure about one of the words, the way they wrote it out. The Imperial Company Restoration Contractor Incorporated out of Cromwell, Connecticut.
And I have opened up one from Young Developers LLC.
Can I ask why you guys aren't reading the numbers of the bids? Because this is the public opening that was promised on the bid form.
Whatever the initial bid amount is, it's always subject to review, and there's always possibilities of the menu and the things of that nature that build the bid. Depending on what's,
No, I understand that, but legally, this is the formal public bid opening.
no, I get that, Brian. Like I said, I don't have a problem
Who
with
is that
it.
that's asking that?
That's Brian Santos.
Okay.
It was Brian.
I mean,
Well, we can, in the past, FOIA has
it's
said that it's not necessary.
right, but a lot of these have, when you look at it, a bunch of things to it.
Mhm.
And, if you omit this or you add this, there's different things. So even though whatever the initial amount is, it's never the final number when they review the complete bid.
Right.
So I have no problem with reading it, probably should. But again, it's up to review to make sure they even qualify and you go through all the process.
Okay.
If
So
I may, Amy, this is John Rice.
Yes, John.
In that tie-in bond, when we get the bids from you, we're gonna have a meeting tomorrow. And the process that we wanted to do is to send it to tie and bond, and they will review it to make sure that it meets the requirements of the request for bid. So as you're indicating, that may change, that bottom number may go up or down depending on what tie and bond reviews that bid package. If there's something that they neglected to put or address in that package, then we're gonna have to address that as a building committee.
Okay. Sorry, I just lost our signal in moving this. You knew, Bryce. Thank you.
yeah, we can hear them though. That's-
Yeah, and if I can, just for clarification, Ken, that was Robert Nordman that was asking that question, not me, Brian Santos.
You both guys sound
And-
pretty close.
I thought I had seen Robert Nordman. But I have to say also, I mean, in looking, these aren't like really easy bids to read.
I couldn't even find the name at
I
first.
can't find the number.
I found
It's
a
not like
number
the
on this one
normal
finally.
RFPs that we get where it's like flat out, it's going to be X amount of dollars. There's a lot of numbers on these pages.
So these
should
are
be on
public
page 3.
information.
Page
Yes, but there is a final number and this is the legal bid opening. So I'd like the numbers to be read.
Yeah.
I don't think that we have to though, and that's what our first
Right.
comment was going to be, that we weren't going to read the bid numbers. So let's just stick with what we had talked about, and then they are public information. I think anybody can review them.
Anybody
once
can
they're-
review and request them.
That's
after.
right.
This is public information, but if this is going to be asked to be reviewed, I'm going to ask for the bids to be sent to me within 5 minutes after this meeting.
Okay, not
because
citizen comments.
This does have to be sent.
It's not.
Right.
Okay, so can I just say that I have retract that it was tie and bond, because it's not.
Right, that's just on the top page.
Exactly. And the bid that I have here, I just had the name and I just lost the name. It was Silk Town Roofing Incorporated, and it looks like they are out of Manchester. Okay, that is that one.
Did you read yours, right? Your.
Yeah, and I again, I see no reason why we can't give the amount of money. Again, it's an initial, any of the other bids that we have opened in the past. There's different menu items and different things that can possibly change it. So it just gives a ballpark figure where they were coming in at. So I don't see a reason why we can't do that.
Am I the last one to read?
I got
You
one
each
more.
had 2 and I had 1.
Okay, so Ken, did you read your second one?
No, I haven't. I just opened it.
Okay. Well, do you want me to read mine?
Certainly.
It's Commercial Roofing and Contracting, and they are out of Putnam.
Greenwood Industries, Inc. And they are out of Worcester, Mass.
Okay. And those are the bids that we've received. We will forward these over to the building committee for further review.
There you are.
Okay. Agenda item 10, disposition of town property, Woodland Ave. This was what I had brought up last week, Joyce and John Hoy. In the meantime, I was grateful for the additional time to research Cindy Dunn did a tremendous amount of research. And then we worked together and went and visited the site where the town properties are. We looked them up on the map. We looked up to see where wetlands fall because they were close to wetlands. And we've determined that there's a good chance that this is wetlands that won't be able to be filled in. Therefore, they will not be able to park their boat most likely. In speaking to our wetlands agent, she had recommended that they hire a soil scientist and a surveyor before acquiring the property. I spoke to John and Joyce today, and they've since pulled back on their interest in the two properties. So it's basically an issue that we don't have to discuss tonight.
So I missed that.
They're not interested in the property at this point.
Okay.
Because it just looks like it's not going to be a viable property. So, but it was very interesting researching the deeds and, doing the walk with them and getting to know residents. So at this point, they're not interested in the properties anymore. So
So no.
that ends
no-
the discussion.
No action.
No action. So the next item on the agenda is agenda item 11, disposition of town property, and it's not actually town property. Ken, you should know this case. David Blake.
Mhm.
He's been attempting to acquire a parcel of land that's technically unclaimed. Back in January, the Planning and Zoning Commission had given permission for him to move forward with attempting to purchase the property, but it's not town property.
Well, that was
So-
always the situation. We did not know if it was town property or not. It's
Right.
right on the Mass-Connecticut border.
Actually,
you
I
look
looked
at
at that
Okay.
at home. I don't have a hard copy of it, but I did review it, and it looks like they did some research with Webster and trying to figure out who actually owned the property, but it was,
Well, in the meantime, I will say that due to the changes in the zoning regulations, Mr. Blake should be able to build his house on this property without the extra piece of land. So at this point, the courts are kind of backlogged. So I believe Mr. Blake is going to move forward with attempting to get a variance so that he can have a driveway because he doesn't have quite enough frontage. And he's going to pursue, because he's had the land surveyed, he's going to pursue trying to find ownership, and then he's going to pursue acquiring the property. But I just figured I'd give you guys an update as far as where he stood with that. So
Well,
there's,
that was always the situation. We didn't know
Right.
who owned the property.
right. And now he's going to attempt to do it, but in the meantime, because of the zoning reg changes, he'll be able to still build.
good.
So it's a win for him.
Yeah.
Because he's been attempting this for about 5 years now.
Oh,
So. All right. All right, agenda item 12. This was on our agenda
Excuse
last
me?
week and
If I may comment, my boss is advising me that you're supposed to read the numbers of the bids from the roofing bid. This is the legal bid opening. I'm not trying to cause a problem here. This is just what I'm being advised as.
we've moved past that. You checked with the FOIA.
we've checked in the past, we've checked.
I understand that, but since this is partially a state-funded project, there's supposed to be a legal bid opening.
I'm fine. I'm fine with reading off the numbers if we want to circle back. We want
I-
to circle back at the end.
This is not citizens' comments, so just putting, shouting out that you want them opened and read and telling us it's legal when we don't have the ability to be able to look that up right now.
I understand that, but every other bid we've been to, and plus this bid is a state-funded project, the numbers are supposed to be read aloud.
Anybody have Tom Hennick's phone number?
Nope.
It won't, you know what, honestly, Suzanne, it won't
It's not
hurt.
going to make a difference.
Now we
won't
have
It's
make
to
not going to
difference.
affect anything.
It won't.
And I don't have a problem with that, but what I do have a problem with is we are in a meeting, a public meeting, where you don't just shout out what you want when you want it. We have a format and a formality, and we've been following it right along. That's
So
kind of what bothers me a little bit.
why don't we move it to later in the agenda? Can we circle back later in the agenda?
We've.
You'll have to put it on,
We've
I'll make a
completed
motion that we
number
put it under
11.
other or old business or one of the,
Well, it's not old business. We've completed 11. You can defer back. Nobody
Okay.
should say anything to defer back to the bid opening,
All right,
and then we'll continue on with 12.
all right. We will circle back. And I will double check with FOIA tomorrow. I mean, I don't want to be out of turn.
I'm trying to look it up.
Should be on page 3.
The Imperial Company Restoration Contractor Incorporated. Trying to find Cromwell, Connecticut, $1,855,000. Greenwood Industries, Worcester, Mass. $1,944,000.
Yeah, no, you don't have to.
Hmm?
No, you don't have to say the dollar amount, just the name and open the bids.
Mm-hmm.
Just for
Let it go now. Who did you
future
check with?
reference. Someone who knows,
Okay.
who's been opening bids for
Well,
24
I-
years.
Silktown Roofing Incorporated, $1,863,000. Commercial Roofing and Contracting, Putnam, Connecticut, $2,268,000. And lastly, Young Developers LLC out of Hamden, $1,982,000. And these will be referred to the building committee. Okay, moving on to agenda item 12, land donation to Wyndham Trust, discussion and possible action. I have Carolyn Wurge.
Yeah,
Hoping that if any of this, I know you sent us all the property cards and information and deeds on these parcels, but is there anything you'd like to share with us about the donation of this property to Wyndham Land Trust?
well, I wanted to be available if there were any questions, and I can tell you that we had a conservation meeting last night, and this subject came up. And one of the things that was mentioned at the meeting was that it would be a good idea if the town moves forward with transferring the land to the Wyndham Land Trust, that there be a condition that it would be for conservation purposes only. And I would add to that, perhaps you would want a reverter clause in case, at any time in the future, if things changed, that it would revert back to the town. you'd have to have our attorney figure out exactly how they would want to word all of that. And the other thing that I did discuss with them was the fact that the property that the town owns, that you've used as a soccer field, I understand it's kind of inactive these days. Perhaps is that because there are drainage problems?
That's
Yes.
correct.
Okay, well, there was discussion about that, and what we discussed was the potential of the town wanting to do some kind of a negotiation with Wyndham Land Trust. If Wyndham Land Trust were to acquire the property west of that piece, perhaps there could be some negotiation for something that would benefit some part of that property that would benefit the town as a, kind of in exchange for receiving these other parcels. I was, in discussing that with the commission, they felt that that was not an unreasonable thing. But I really didn't have specifics. I did know that there was some drainage problems, and I don't know what else the town could conceivably utilize any portion of that property for. But I think if something could be put together, something more concrete as to what the town might like to have in the future out of that parcel. I was told that that Wyndham Land Trust had been speaking with the owner of that parcel, but she passed away. So the estate, I guess, is in probate or whatever all else happens afterward. So everything is unsettled at this point. But I know that Wyndham Land Trust would like to acquire that property.
All right, just a couple of comments on it. I did speak with Carolyn after we got it on the properties, and that was one of the things that I had discussed with her, was with the exception of the 21 acres, everything that is up at the actual Bull Hill area is landlocked properties that with the Arkansas or Arizona, where I forget where they were from, that Wyndham Land Trust had been in contact with them for quite some time trying to acquire that huge piece of parcel up there. So if we ever want to do anything with the Bull Hill soccer area, that abuts the western bank of all of our acreage up there, the 80 acres. And, maybe a swap or something of that nature, but we'd have to talk with Wyndham Land Trust right up front. So when they negotiate with the people that own that parcel, that has to be an understanding, they can't change something in midstream. Okay, we're going to take on that 100 acre, whatever that size of that parcel is. The town, we're going to give the town, say 60 acres, whatever it is. And they're going to give us, additional land around it. So it could enhance our recreational area up there. And it still comes down to conservation, because recreation as a whole is conservation of land. You really don't, soccer field, baseball fields, you're keeping it pretty much as open space, and it gives them the other lands. There's also other lands to the north of that as well. I think there's a 60-acre parcel by St. Cyr. I could be wrong in that name, that, they've been in negotiation. But if we were to have a good constructive conversation with Wyndham Land Trust and get a feel that maybe we could benefit each other and possibly help out that drainage issue and other things that we're dealing with up there by having some additional land.
So just to reiterate or to repeat
Clarify.
what you're saying, you're thinking that, and Carolyn, we're thinking, or you're thinking that we would donate these properties in exchange for the possibility of having property that's close to the soccer fields, to the Bull
Well, that would
Hill
be the
recreation area?
exchange. I
Okay,
mean,
right,
we're
right.
open to,
Yeah.
it's landlocked properties
Right.
that we've acquired between 1952 and 1969.
Right.
You know, they were probably all tax sales or donations
Mhm.
of that. And as Wyndham Land Trust has gotten donations around it
Mm.
and bought property, you know, there is no access to some of those lots, and they're basically paying. If Carolyn, correct me, but I think they just pay what the market rate is for raw open land, and that's what they get. The only other caveat, if I think it would be easier doing a swap because they get something, we get something. Other than that, and this would be a question for the attorney, there is a couple of lots that are up in the western part up against the Woodstock line area that abut, and there's a couple of property owners that own several pieces of land that abut a couple of these. So, you know, if we're just, it's a fine line. How do we do this and get what we want? Wyndham Land Trust gets what we want without, because there's always a possibility you still may have to put it out for bid. You know, you're in that kind of area, and, you know, one of the abutters could turn around and say, hey, I would have bought the land. I have
Right.
bought that. And I'm not
Mm.
saying that could happen, but we don't need to rush today,
Right.
tomorrow into
Right.
this. And maybe between conservation and talking with Steve Adams, the attorney that's been representing them, and getting a meeting of their board, that maybe we can have some good conversation that benefits everybody, and we can make it as good a possible transition with the least amount of obstacles to get it done.
But no matter what, it would have to go to town meeting, correct?
Well, it's going to have
Or
to go
yes,
to P and Z
P and Z
P and Z then.
to get rid of the
to,
land.
right, right.
You know, that's,
Um,
you know, that's the same thing with the 21 acres. That's the woodlot. That has that caveat of being a woodlot for the
Mhm.
people from way back when.
Right.
And there is a couple of solid abutters next to that property that could have some interest in it.
Right.
And I'm not saying they would, but there is that possibility.
And Carolyn, just to define this, or just to clarify this, are you implying that Wyndham Trust would be willing to assist in rectifying the drainage problem? Is that what you're saying? Like they would actually do this in exchange for this land?
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, when you look at the town's needs and you look at what Wyndham Land Trust would like, perhaps there could be some kind of negotiating where it's a win-win situation. I didn't know exactly what the town's needs were, you know, how you would, I mean, if, let's say they were on the brink of buying that piece of property. What is it the town would want? You know, very concretely, what would they want? I know that the Wheaton Brook that runs through would be something precious to the environmental aspect of this, and that I think that would be important to the Wyndham Land Trust. But I don't know exactly what the town would want. You know, would it be more parking space? Would it be more area where you want to be able to expand to do more fields and also correct your drainage problem? I mean, you know, in order to correct the drainage problem, you probably need some engineering, and you need to know exactly what options you would have. And that might involve wanting to direct water off site. I don't know. But so it was just the idea of the potential for both sides getting something. That was where I was coming from with that.
Okay,
Um,
because the soccer fields are something that I have had a strong interest in since becoming a selectman, and trying to bring them back to a usable condition.
Uh-huh.
So it's definitely of interest.
Yeah, I think at this point, it'd be, open up a dialogue with Wyndham Land Trust and see where we can go with this.
But are you also saying, Ken, that potentially it might, prior to just donating these properties, that it might have to go out to the public to see if there's abutters that would be interested in bidding on them?
That might be a question for the town attorney.
Okay.
Whether we have to, there could be
Well,
a
because
difference
it's
between.
important. A resident might really want the land.
Yeah,
and-
but it could be a difference with, where you're doing a swap,
Mhm.
acre for acre, where it's not going out, you're making a trade
Mm,
because of X, Y, and Z. It's a legal question.
Okay.
Yeah, could I also just throw in there the fact that these lots have been sitting there for decades upon decades,
Mhm.
and no one has stepped up and said, I would like to buy that.
Right.
Or I would, I mean, it's landlocked. Nobody has a house that deep into Bull Hill area. So, what would they use it for?
Right.
I just want to throw that out, kind of balance the conversation a little bit.
Mhm. Thank you, Carolyn.
Okay.
So at this point, is there any further discussion on this? Anything else?
We can run this by
Okay.
P and Z without a problem to see if they're willing to let us,
Is that what we want to do? They have a meeting on Monday.
well, it's a little short notice, but I
Yeah.
mean,
You think,
in
you want to think about it for
I-
at least another,
At least
Another
another
couple
meeting or
weeks.
another.
oh, yeah.
Because it's not It's been sitting there, as she
Right,
said, for
right.
ages.
But I
So
mean,
making it a decision in a month, we don't have to do that.
no, we don't. And if Wyndham Land Trust is in discussion with, the estate of the other one and this, we've got plenty of time. Once they know that they're amenable to having a discussion on it, then we can go to P and Z. We like to, this is what can we get rid, can we do something with the land? Give them the parameters, why we want to do something with it. And, not rush into it, but, have time to think, give them time to think.
all right.
I would just say that I think that Ken mentioned Steve Adams. It wouldn't hurt to speak with Steve Adams about it, just so that you kind of start some communication and let them know what your ideas are, and you get some feedback from him.
Yep.
It's a good idea.
Yep.
As well as P and Z. Okay,
That sounds like a plan.
okay. Is there anything else I can do for you?
No,
Thank you.
thanks, Carolyn.
Very welcome. Good night.
Good night.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
All right. So with no further discussion on that, we'll move on to agenda item 13, which is the possibility of revising some ordinances. There are a few ordinances that are pretty standard, and there are a couple that I believe are very controversial. I would like to add a couple items to other business, including I did get permission from Melinda Smith to hold a virtual town meeting in the same format, but with also live individuals here. So we'd be able to do the hybrid of both live people, the streaming, and Zoom all at the same time on November 24th. That would be a Tuesday. So anyways, that'll be an other business topic. But there are some minor changes that possibly need to happen to some of the ordinances that we can start talking about.
That was where I wanted the printouts to have the
do
word.
you
No,
want-
you go ahead and, no, go ahead. We'll work with you on this.
Okay, I'll pass them off to you. The first.
I read through them, but
The first is for the, basically for the transfer station, garbage, refuse, rubbish, refuse, and recycling ordinance. Ordinance number 10-021. It's really just some wording and eliminating things like the certain bulky waste items that the transfer station no longer accepts. But I'm willing,
nope, that one I'm
Sure.
fine with. I read through that.
Yeah, that's just house cleaning.
Looked like some, yeah.
okay?
Yep.
The second one that was pretty standard was the veterans tax exemption.
Mhm.
And that adjustment was basically just the ordinance or the statute that was referenced was inaccurate. I did make copies of that.
Okay.
And highlighted.
So there was no change to this one, just the statutes that
Just
were,
the statutes.
Okay.
Yeah, I
that's
don't
what I
see
wasn't
Paul.
sure because it didn't show any.
Right. Paul had brought it to our attention, so I pulled up,
Oh,
we only
that
sent you a
was the-
copy of the change that they've made, and I just gave you a copy of what is currently in place. So all that is a change from 12-81F to 12- wait. It was a minor change. Instead of 12-81F, it was 12-81. 1 in the Connecticut general statutes.
Again, that's just housekeeping.
Yeah.
Housekeeping, okay. I just want to make sure we're clear on that.
Yep.
Driveway ordinance, I think, is pretty much housekeeping as well. If you read through that as
Mhm.
well.
Yep.
Just some change in verbiage.
I did quickly read it. I may have missed it because we just did change the bond.
The bond, right?
And I reading it, I could not find where it referenced the bond in here. And I may have overlooked it. I mean, the bond is always subject to change. That would go in the fee charts like we
Right.
tried to do anyway. So if there was any fees within the driveway ordinance, they come out, they go into the fee chart so we can amend that without
Without amending the
Right.
ordinance.
The
That's what I
ordinance.
thought I
Mhm.
was
Yeah.
reading just,
But it says if the work is not completed and it's under number 8, within the time period, the bond shall be forfeited.
right.
And I may have missed it. I got to read it again. I've read it a couple of times, but I did not see that a bond had to be posted.
Hmm.
And if I did miss it, then it's in there. If I didn't, it's possibly something that needs to be put in because you can't have a bond unless it's in the ordinance.
Right.
So we need to review that.
Yeah,
So,
And make sure that that's,
that there's a reference that a bond has to be posted as one of the requirements.
okay, so let's look.
so
for
put that one on the,
Can I have your?
So that's going to need additional work.
So just making sure.
I'm
So
gonna
on
just,
that one, we want to make sure that the bond,
Is covered. The language in there for the bond is covered.
I'm just gonna bring these up on my phone because,
oops, your pen died, Suzanne. There we go.
You can just write question,
Present.
where is bond in ordinance?
Yep.
Because at the bottom, they put down, it was raised from 1,000 to 2 per the Board of Selectmen
Mhm.
meeting minutes.
The bond? Oh, yeah. All right, so we'll look that up and make sure that's present. Okay. So Donna Hall had sent out to the Board of Ed and the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen the proposed budget ordinance ahead of time a few weeks back. It's got to be about a month ago now. Just looking for feedback, input. I thought it was a robust discussion at the Board of Finance meeting the other night. I felt pretty strongly that the majority of members maybe weren't leaning towards this type of a change, and I have to admit that I'm not in favor of the change either. I think it just further creates separation in the town. And for anybody who doesn't know, there's been a few people that have suggested that the budget be changed to add on that once a budget is approved by the referendum vote, only the portion of the budget that has been rejected by vote can be further modified by the Board of Finance. And not speaking for the Board of Finance, but in the meeting the other night, it seemed like most of the members felt like that would leave their hands tied as far as what they could do in order to help achieve, the goal of getting a budget to pass every year. That's kind of my take, but what
I
do-
would further say that they were some of them were expressing they felt that it should be combined and be one vote.
Right.
And that would be my sentiments. I feel that we should have one budget, one vote, where it goes out to referendum. I thought that it was good conversation. Aaron had brought up the fact that it had been one vote for years and years and years. And then 23 years ago, I think he stated it went to where it was separated, and it's brought us, and some could say it's brought us to the point where we are going to, 5 and 6 referendums, and it's separated the town. It truly has separated the town. So I would not be in favor of this ordinance change at all. But what I would, and I'm not sure where it came from or where the concept or why they started working on it. So what I would be in favor of is having them draft one that combines the two budgets. Now, that is just my opinion, but I would like to see that.
And I think there were a few members of the Board of Finance
Yes.
that seemed to have the same sentiment. Ken, what do you think?
I can see the merit in why they want to do this, because whichever part of the budget passes, it's given them, when they did this back in 97, it was to give the Board of Finance guidance that, we're approving the school budget, but we're not approving the town budget. So we're happy with this one. You need to work on this one, which was the general idea. Sometimes it's worked that way. Sometimes it hasn't, where they've looked at the referendum and haven't touched it and just adjusted the one that needed to be done. The problem that I see with this, if you put this in, and let's say we go to multiple referendums, and we start this thing out in May. I remember when we didn't have a state budget, we went 4 referendums. We were in November. And all of a sudden, something comes up down the pipeline where we now have to add something to one of those budgets as a new requirement. If that one there can't be touched, then we're going to have to go to a special meeting in order to get that money approved at a later date. So it complicates everything. Like I said, I can understand the sentiment. We spoke, we're happy with this, leave it alone, just work on the one that we're not happy with. It has its merits. That could have been just policy that the Board of Finance could take and say, hey, the people spoke, we understood, we're not going to touch it, we'll just adjust whichever one went down. Sometimes it's worked, sometimes it hasn't, as we both know, going through these budgets. I would be more inclined to try and put them both back together. Do it as one budget. I don't know what kind of resistance we're going to get. If, even at the Board of Finance meeting, it came down to, well, if we did that, we do need some guidance from, the public. Let's have some questions on the referendum. Is it too high, too low? What is your problem with, if you don't like the budget, what's your problem with it? Where you get a little bit more, but we've never gone to that, in the past.
The concern I would have with putting the ordinance out this way, if it were to pass, is that we would have people that would vote no on the town budget because they want the school to pass. And you know what I mean? Vice versa. Yes, that would be my, and then we would be going to referendum after referendum. That would be one of my concerns, that we'd never get a budget in.
So,
And I'm sorry.
no, that's okay.
And what the point, the questioning on the referendum may not be the right place for the questions. I was thinking surveying.
Exit polls.
Yes, doing exit polls, surveying might be a great way to get some valuable information and opinions.
You've got the, what is it? The Survey Monkey.
Right.
There's different ways.
There's different ways.
We could do it, the school could do it. There's different ways of doing it to get some feedback.
I would love to look into doing something like that as a board.
The only bad, if you do it on an official referendum, I think they keep those sealed for so long. We got to keep them.
Yeah.
But then you have to go back to the referendum because you've got to get those answers to those questions. And it could be time consuming and hard to.
And it could be
Get
that
that
you get a
information.
tally, if we use the electronic machines, but if not, and they're hand counted, it's just going to make life a lot more complicated, I think, if it's done on a referendum, and it's not really meant to be a questionnaire, the referendum.
Right.
So I think it might be a better not to put a question on the referendum. I think we've found that in the past, that hasn't always worked.
Would we, as a board, then like to suggest to the ordinance committee to adjust as an option to adjust this ordinance eventually for voter approval, but to combine the budgets again?
I personally would recommend that we send this back to the ordinance committee and we ask them that they put the language together that combines the budget and makes it one
One
vote.
budget, one vote. I'm
We
in
can- we-
favor of that.
We can have different drafts. We can have this draft. We can have one putting them both back together
And have them voted on at town meeting?
and then get some conversation out there. See what the public thinks.
When we go to put these ordinances together, I think our goal is to get them through and to get them passed.
Mhm.
If we give them 5 different options, I think healthy conversation, yes, but I don't want to overwhelm the audience by, and that's maybe isn't the exact phrase to use, but I would like to see us be able to put it together and really the 3 of us support it.
Right. Yep.
Like I said, the way it's written, I see problems.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
I see the rationale, it makes
Mm-hmm.
sense, but the example I gave, something happens and you can't touch that budget, we can't add anything to it. Now we're spending more for a special town meeting or a special referendum because it's over the threshold to increase that part of the budget.
It's not in the best interest of the town.
Right.
Or doesn't, whoops,
So,
not talking into my mic.
so,
So we're taking no action.
right.
So
But but do we agree? I mean, do we want because we are going to be going to the town for these ordinances, do we want to at this time make the suggestion
yeah, I would tell the board,
to combine
Committee.
the
tell
committee,
the
the
committee,
ordinance
this is
committee?
our thoughts.
And
And after hearing the Board of Education is in favor of having it put together, it sounded like I'm not going to speak for the Board
Right.
of Finance or the Board of Education, but it sounded like
Mhm.
I would like to see it go back to the committee to have them rewrite the language to combine it.
I would too.
It's not our decision wholeheartedly. It goes out to the town.
Well,
So
let's have them do that and we can revisit it at the next meeting.
I would like that.
Okay.
Well, even at a town meeting, when these come up,
Right.
they can
It's
rewrite
discussion.
them right there on the
Right.
spot.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
So let's move forward with that and we'll take it up at the next meeting on November 4th.
Good.
Okay.
Was that the last one?
No, this is another one that
Oh,
Tara spent a lot of time drafting this. It was more on the request of multiple townspeople. It wasn't anything that came from my office. It's a blight ordinance. I think this isn't the time to take this issue up only because there might be people that are unable to vote. And it's just such a heated topic. I think it's a 50-50 split. And I just think it's too controversial to take up now during this COVID time.
What I would like to see is a copy of the blight ordinance that was defeated in
Okay.
October of 15
Okay,
to see how that compares to what this is.
That's
Okay.
a great idea.
great idea.
I'd also like to see the state has a blight ordinance that we follow now. Is that correct?
Well, I think we follow
Because we don't have
certain
a blight
regulations
ordinance.
like the
Ken,
state
am I-
building
am I-
code,
You
the
did a
health
lot of work
code.
on that, didn't you?
That was with Forrester, Paul Linke, and
Oh, okay.
that was
the-
in 15.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I was
They
thinking.
did it back then.
But doesn't the state have a blight ordinance that we felt that we come
Well,
under?
we have different departments, like
Mm-hmm.
the health
Health
department
department,
will check for rodents and,
Right,
because
right,
it's trash. and
right.
that type
fire
of thing.
code.
You have the fire marshal with the fire code, you have the building official that has jurisdiction over certain structures. we crafted, back when Dave Babbitt was around, they had crafted the vehicle ordinance. So there's different elements that cover
Pieces.
bits and pieces of all of this.
Right.
But I would like to see what we had presented back in October of 15
Okay.
and what we have here.
All right. I like that idea.
But I thought the state had put into place around the time that the blight ordinance got shut down, they had updated or put into effect their blight ordinance. And that was what actually we could follow or because we don't have an actual blight ordinance.
Right. So maybe we look into that
So
a little
that would
further.
be exactly,
Okay.
if we could look into that.
We'll look
Amy,
at
I
what
tend to agree
failed.
with you. Sometimes situations happen that are financially related and people are not able to follow some of what might come under a blight. There are other situations where it's pure negligence, but maybe given what's going on in the world, now is not the best time to put that forward, but maybe working on it.
Mhm.
Well, it doesn't hurt to look at it.
Exactly.
Right. But I want the public to be able to have a healthy debate about it.
There will be.
Right. But I don't
And I
think,
would love
but I
to
feel
hear-
like there might be people that are left out, whether it's because they don't have internet or they don't want to come out in public still because they're fearful of the virus. I just want to make sure that we can have a full, healthy conversation about it. I know we will, but I want to make sure that everybody has access to give their input. But I do like the idea of getting the old ordinance and comparing them side by side.
do
That's
too.
an excellent idea.
Yeah.
And then looking at what the state has to see what we could be following that maybe we're not following. So, all right. Any other discussion on this one?
No, that was the last one?
Yeah.
Yep.
I lost my agenda here.
Well,
You're out of the business now.
we're at other business, which I would like to make a
I know.
motion that we add. I have 2 agenda items to add. The first would be a potential land donation by River Junction Estates. I'll make that motion that we add that to other business for discussion and possible action.
Second?
Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And the second item that I'd like to add to other business is the potential for a town meeting on November 24th.
Same night as the selectmen meeting?
Nope, the selectmen meeting is the week before that. It's the 4th,
Okay.
4th and the 11th, is it?
Say
Is
the
that right?
date again.
November 24th.
Okay, was that a motion that you were making?
Yes, I'll make a
Okay,
motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor of adding town meeting to other business, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And that passes. Okay, so the first item is Rich Benoit was approached by River Junction Estates, Alan and Kathy Rawson. These are the parcels. So these are the parcel descriptions that Kathy sent me just the other day. So I didn't get it on the agenda. I apologize. And the map. So there is a dangerous curve on Aquatic Town Farm Road that exists near the current gravel mining operation on 363 Aquatic Town Farm Road. So what's proposed is donation of 2 small parcels from the 363, well, actually, I think it's 361 Aquatic Town Farm Road. They're just sections of the property close to the road, which would enable our Public Works Department to straighten out that curve and make it a little bit safer for all the travelers on that road. I did speak to our attorney, who said that this would have to go to an 824 review to the P&Z to accept the parcels for extension of the road, widening of the road. So it would have to go to planning and zoning. And it needs our approval to actually go to planning and zoning for them to consider it.
It makes sense.
It does.
Yeah.
And then that goes back out to town meeting, right?
Then it goes to town meeting, correct?
I travel this road quite a bit and it is a nasty little curve.
Mhm.
So yeah, it does make sense.
And the road is narrow in a couple of those spots. It gives us a chance to widen it out.
Yep.
It makes the maintenance a lot better for it, and it makes the safety of the public quite a bit better,
Right.
you know, with that, because there's no street lights out there. That's all dark road at night.
It's very dark.
especially. So I would make a motion that, that we go in front of P and Z to accept the two parcels that are listed here.
Okay, and I
for
would second,
acceptance.
I would second that motion. Any further discussion?
No.
Okay, all in favor of referring to planning and zoning, the acceptance of these two parcels of land, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And that motion passes. All right. Town meeting. Like I said, I did speak with Melinda to make sure that she would be comfortable with us, with the potential of us holding up to approximately 100 or so residents. I guess the auditorium holds 700, is that correct?
6, I think.
Um, But my intention was to try to encourage as many people to Zoom in and allowing just the people who maybe didn't have access to Zoom or felt more comfortable being live and in person to come to the auditorium. But in the past, I mean, town meetings maybe yield 100
Depends on
people.
what's on
I
the
know.
agenda.
Right. So it's my hope to do it on November 24th. It is the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, but the school is closed on Wednesday, and Melinda had said the custodians work on Wednesday and they could do a deep cleaning after we left from the previous night. So, so that date that's the reason I chose that date. Plus, there's several items that have to go before town meeting. One is we have to approve short-term funding for the school roof project. Because even though it went to referendum, the wording on the referendum did not state the short-term funding because it's a reimbursement and the town doesn't have money to front. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Then we also back in, was it March, it was either February or March, the Board of Finance, I believe it was February. The Board of Finance approved the appropriation of money for the Marianopolis litigation. And we need town approval because it was $200,000. So we need town approval on that. So those were two very urgent options. I figured we could add in the ordinances. I don't want to load it up with too much stuff, but possibly the simple ordinances. And then,
Oh, if I may, when we were talking about ordinances, since we're talking it,
Mhm.
if you remember the state and I think the federal government, I can't remember which entity, did allow the increase to the tax abatement for the firefighters.
Oh, okay.
That
Oh,
to be
thank you so
increased,
much for
and
bringing
that
that up.
needs to
Thank you.
be-
That needs to be written up too?
That needs to be updated.
Okay.
And
The ordinance for that and the way that we are doing the ordinance, I mean, the abatement
Okay.
needs to be looked at.
But that's another one that needs to be done.
Okay.
It's because, the COVID-19 right along shows everything that, our volunteers are doing and
Oh,
what
no
little we
question.
can is not enough.
Okay.
No
so-
question about that.
So, but that is one of those that needs to be also updated.
Yes.
And, and have a time frame. I think it went up by 1,000. I think it was. I may be off, but maybe 500 this year, 500 in the next budget. Put it into
Increments.
increments so the town doesn't absorb it all at once.
Okay.
But that should be a conversation, as well with the, somebody representing the fire departments to come down and,
The advisory.
and see exactly, and see what other things that they may be having an issue with, in that. It's been a long time since we've updated that.
Right.
And I don't know if it's up to the committee to look at the process in which that we are, because I've mentioned this before and I wanted to do some research on this to figure out if we're actually giving them the credit in the correct way. Because at this point, we're taxing them on it.
Right.
That-
And it's kind of taxing them upon income they've already been taxed on.
Mhm.
It's the way the federal government, the Treasury Department had set it up. Joe Courtney was trying to get that changed where they wouldn't get taxed on it.
Not all towns do it this way.
I'm just,
And I did a little bit of, yeah, and maybe it's changed in the last, I don't know when it was last updated, but, so that's something I thought we could do a little, or I could do a little research on, or, and see how other towns are doing it and figure out what the actual, if it's changed.
But also know that other towns might be doing it wrong.
Well, that could be, or we could be doing it wrong.
Or we could be. So, but
There's
keep an
always-
open mind. It could be them doing it wrong.
Yep,
Or it
that's
could be
fine too.
us.
and again, with the town attorney representing 49 towns,
Mhm.
he should be able to get a pretty good feel of what that, language should properly be. If we're doing it wrong.
You would hope,
Yeah, we would hope.
one would hope,
But that one we need to.
but it's worth looking into.
Without a doubt.
All right.
So-
Thanks for bringing that up because I completely forgot.
So town meeting,
Town meeting on the 24th.
Yep.
Do you need a vote on that?
I believe we need to make a motion to go to town meeting. Is that correct, Ken?
Well, you do, but
Are you accurate?
usually we have the,
Oh, we have the legal notice first? Okay,
Yeah,
But-
we're not there yet.
okay. We will be there by the next meeting. At least on
Yeah.
2 issues.
even if you just get the first 2 done,
Right,
those are the 2 major, because they're
Mhm.
funding sources.
Yep.
And we can tackle the ordinances after,
right,
if it looks like it could get to,
right.
Too much.
And we don't want to overwhelm people with too many.
no,
Options.
not especially if we're doing it by Zoom
Right.
live and under the circumstances.
So we'll take
we are.
care of the most important things.
Most definitely.
Okay.
Sounds good.
I mean,
Sounds good.
the one for the veterans, we probably could, the couple that are just record keeping
Mhm.
won't be, but we don't want to get into anything controversial.
Right, we'll save the controversial ones for a big live meeting.
Well, it will be partially live, which will be good.
Right,
It'll be a hybrid. I
Mhm.
think that we should conduct our meetings that way from now on.
yeah. All right. So any further discussion on that item?
No.
Nope.
All right, we'll move on to citizen comments. Kathleen, I see you have your hand up.
Oh, I do. I can't see my hand up, but okay, yes. Yes, I do. I just wanted to,
Oh, Kathleen, can you state your name and your address? Sorry.
okay, Kathleen Herbert, 122 Wilsonville Road. I just wanted to make a comment on the ordinances. You probably heard, at least Amy heard me at the Board of Finance, that we at the Board of Ed did look at the ordinance, and we are in support of bringing back a unified budget. We felt that this bifurcated budget, it may have been good in 1997. I wasn't involved in town politics back then. I don't know the rationale for splitting the budget apart. Kenny, maybe you do, but it seems that over the past at least 10 years, it's just made the town more divisive. We've become an us versus them, and it's just aggravating that mentality. And we'd like to bring the budget back together, or see the budget brought back together. And especially since it's usually the school budget now that is failing, and I don't know beyond my 10 years in involvement, that it's dangerous because you can't go, especially for us now that we're an alliance district, you're not allowed for the school to go below the MBR. If we were allowed to go below the MBR, there are tremendous penalties for that, but we are not allowed to dip below the MBR because we're an alliance district. Plus, as I said, it's just very divisive, and we see this time after time in what people are saying about the school budget versus the town budget. And another little factor is that there are about 44 towns in the 169 towns in Connecticut that do have split budgets. That's only like 26% of the towns. And one of the towns, Salem, has returned to a unified budget as of a few years ago. So I was hoping, and I understand that, it is a controversial subject, and probably now is not the right time to address this issue. But I certainly would like to address the issue, if at all possible, before the budget this year. And I thank you very much.
Thank you, Kathleen. Any other citizen comments at this time? Okay, hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to tax refunds. I will make a motion that we refund Maria C. Leak $5.43, Thomas M. Cahill $14.16, Thomas M. Cahill $52, Paula M. Cahill and Thomas M. Cahill $64.86, Catherine L. Bonzek $51.63, and Pamela J. Poletta $53.33 for a total of $241.41. I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion to adjourn.
Ken
Second.
has a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Suzanne has a second. It's 8:17 PM. All in favor of adjourning?